Welcome to another episode of the NRL All-Stars podcast. Barnesy here, your host of the All-Stars podcast for the final thought for round 18. You'll notice that it's a little bit different. We don't have any banners or anything up. I wasn't able to sort some issues out that I had with the recording today, so please excuse the appearance if you're watching on YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, 20 more subscribers. That is all I am after. Can people please, if you watch or listen or consume the content in any way, go and like and subscribe on YouTube. Really helps out the show to give out free content. Also on iTunes and Spotify. And if you do have a business or work for a business that has any shipping, courier or freight needs, you can jump on our sponsor, oneworldcourier.com.au today and go and check them out for their shipping. Now, for this episode, it's going to be a real short one. It's also going to be relevant for past this week too, because look, had some questions about, hey, I'm in some real strife with my team. I don't have any trades left. Could I trade out Dylan Lucas to find some money? It's an interesting question and it's an interesting concept as well. I'm going to say what we're about to talk about, it is risky and you need to understand that. But there are teams that have, say, a dozen or less trades that just don't have the trades to keep making trades every week to make money or to get to the team that they want. And certainly some teams will be locked out of the players or the plans that they hope for if they don't make some drastic moves in different ways. So they are a little bit desperate. There's a reason that these players like Dylan Lucas are highly owned. It's because they've had great seasons. But if you think that you can score more points with a different player, then it can work out and it can also free up some cash. So I'm going to give a couple of examples on how this could work out if you are a team with limited trades or limited money or limited resources to get the players that you want for the run home. This is another way to look at it. Ruben Garrick's another one. I might start with him actually. Garrick's had a great season, 74 points per game, right? 93 the last 2 weeks in a row. I love him this week against South. He might even be a captaincy option. But where is the upside? Well, the upside is he's owned by half a Supercoach. Now, I wouldn't trade him this week, but certainly next week he's on a bye. And then after that, geez, it's a rough run for Manly. Melbourne and the Dogs back-to-back away games. Then they got the Roosters and then they got the Raiders away at GIO. That 4 weeks is a killer. The last 4 weeks isn't as bad, but not great. So you could argue that Manly are going to be pretty poor for the run home, potentially. At 700,000 possibly after this week's rise, and also at 50% ownership, he is a way to make money. Not this week, but maybe next week, where teams are also going to struggle to field teams. It's a desperation move. I'd rather hold Garrick, but he's there as an option. The other one as well that I mentioned was Dylan Lucas, obviously. Now, with Lucas, I'm just going to say outright, I don't think that Lucas is going to have a bad finish to the season. I just don't know if it's going to be as good as his 78-point average at the moment, and that's key. He's also $675,000, so very similar in value. He's still going to be that amount next week, but the good news with him is if you decide, like if you've got a build where you have all stacked second row forward, then it makes sense that you could nuff Lucas to make heaps of money this week for you to do all the upgrades that you need to, like a Cleary back next week, etc. That is essential. The other thing that you can do, though, is go straight to Kane Bradley, which I really like. Maintain your dual flexibility there. If you've got like Fermor in your center wing or something like that, works out great. And even though I don't think that he will go badly, I think he might be a 63, 64 average potentially. There is no Ponga on the run home. The Knights draw is not great. They have the Storm, then they have the Warriors, and then they have the Raiders, and then they have a bye in round 22. Very much like the Manly Seagulls, that month is killer. And that month is what it's all about. It's all about that when you're chasing your rank. It's all about that when you're chasing your head-to-heads as well, because that's going to determine whether you're going to start in the head-to-head finals or not in some of your leagues. So certainly Lucas and Garrick are ones that I'm looking at because they're high-value guys, high-owned guys that you can zag away from, and guys that have a month after this week of pretty poor matchups, really. So, that's just another way to potentially make money. There's obviously some nothing that you could do, which we've spoken about in the prior podcast. Another guy is Tino Fa'asuamaleaui, who I wouldn't mind letting go of this week. The problem with that is that he's sub 600,000 in value. Not going to free up heaps. But if your pack is stacked, again, a Kane Bradley via Jules there could work out quite well as a downgrade option for Tino. And I don't think you're going to lose much if you've got a stacked pack. You're just going to replace Tino starting with another gun. So that works out fine. So there's definitely some options there if you're desperate to make money. If you've got to find other ways to do it, and you've got to find other ways to get to your plans. What I would recommend teams try not to do to finish off on, this is one of the biggest mistakes in Supercoach that I make in every year just about as well, so it is very tempting. you end up with a lower budget and you go, you know what, I'm not going to get a Jacob Carraz. I'm going to take a punt on this other guy that's like 500K. And undoubtedly 90% of the time that doesn't work. And you know it's not going to probably work because you've targeted these guys over here that you know are good, and these are the guys that you want, but you end up settling for guys that it's 1, 2, 3 tiers below them as a super coach option. And if you have to keep playing them on the run home, which is key, then it's a big problem. The 5'8" position is an example. You know, if you go from a Cameron Munster to someone who's like really shaky, like an Ethan Strange, playing Ethan Strange every week is going to be a nightmare because he's going to have some 20s and 30s a lot, and that's going to really kill you. Munster isn't a bad sell if you want to make some money out of it. The problem is he's only 612K too. But the moral of the story is try not to settle for guys that are going to be mediocre that you're going to have to play on the run home. You can try and find money other ways and try and zag away. Hopefully that helped everyone out. Thanks very much for listening and the support of the podcast. Really appreciate it. Make sure that you have a great weekend. Enjoy the footy. Enjoy the Supercoach. Can't wait to talk all about it again next week.